You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers!
What happens when a simple tutoring gig takes a dangerous turn? Author Courtney Psak pulls us into The Tutor, a twisty, character-driven thriller that explores ambition, obsession, and the secrets people will go to any length to hide. Join me as we dive into her inspiration, writing journey, and the pulse-pounding story that keeps readers hooked until the very last page. Please put your hands together and welcome Courtney to the show. Thank you so much, Courtney, for joining me for this episode of On the Air with Florenza, where in just a few minutes, we are going to continue our conversation about your debut, The Tutor. And for the listeners and viewers, especially, you all are going to hear me fangirl when I tell you that I have now assigned myself as Courtney's primary fan member. I am her official A1 cheerleader. And when you guys read this book, you are going to know why. Her writing style, her storytelling is phenomenal. Like literally from the first sentence, you are completely pulled in. Now, Courtney has had a chance to listen to the show, and she knows what she is in for, and she still agreed to come.
It's like the most fun podcast ever. What are you talking about?
Yes. Before we start, we're going to toast to an amazing show. I have a little mimosa, and you have, now is that the Stanley or is that the Stanley adjacent?
The Yeti.
That's the Yeti.
I live in Florida. We got to keep things cold all the time.
Yes, well, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's kind of good, even though I don't normally drink orange juice. All right. Oh, now, Courtney, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and tell us what prompted you, because we're going to dive in, but tell us what prompted you to write The Tutor. And also, a third question in that, why the title, The Tutor? Because as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, this could have been a title. Oh, that could have been a title. Oh, this should have been a title.
It's the difference between self-publishing and having an editor, for the most part. A little about me. I'm originally from New Jersey. My husband and I moved down to Palm Beach, Florida about 6 years ago. And it was kind of an eye-opener for me, like how, people love like Succession and Palm Royale, that was like about behind the hedges. And it's funny because it kind of like, it seems different, but it's really not. Like one of the things I like to highlight in my book is that like, no matter how different, economically or just from a quality of living perspective, like nobody escapes health, nobody escapes emotional trauma, nobody escapes their family issues. And so I thought that was kind of like an interesting thing to highlight in this book. So that was one of the reasons that I came up with that sort of idea. And I just also love the idea of like family secrets and things that like, how well do we know the people that we live with? And so, I kind of liked that whole concept. And so basically what The Tutor is about is this woman named Rose, who is a widow. She's a devoted mom to her 14-year-old son. When she meets this guy, Grant, and they have this whirlwind romance. And shortly after they get married, his mother, Evelyn, gets diagnosed with Parkinson's. And so he asks his family if they'd be willing to move from New York down to Palm Beach so that they can take care of her. The thing is, though, Grant comes from a generational wealthy family. So Evelyn comes from a very privileged life, used to getting her way. And so she makes it clear very early on to Rose that she doesn't think that she's good enough for her son. and will resort to literally bribery and blackmail in order to get her to see things her way. But Rose is a fighter, and she soon discovers that Grant's father passed away 20 years ago, but actually under suspicious circumstances. So she starts doing a little digging on her own. And then meanwhile, we have Isabel, who has an obsession with this family, and she has been stalking them for quite some time, has followed them from New York to Palm Beach, and has edged her way in as the son's tutor. And the secret that she has is just going to blow this whole family's foundation to its very core.
Yes. I love that you started with Isabel and it set the tone for us, the reader, knowing something that Rose doesn't. And so that whole sense of being on the end as we're reading was really just brilliant. So, as a
Thank you.
reader, I thank you for that. Had you had other starting points that you considered, or just coming out the gate, you knew that you would
I
start with Isabel?
I pretty much knew I would start out the gate with her because I just
Yeah.
like that whole idea of like that first chapter getting you in when you see her just being like, "See you in Palm Beach," as
Yes.
she's like staring out from the streets of New York up at their window after
Yes.
watching them come home from work every single day for God knows how long.
Yes. A little creepy. A little
Yeah,
creepy.
exactly.
But she did make me want a hot dog, though. So
You know what? Those are the best hot dogs in the city right there in front of the
love it. Now, we were talking about that tutor centers on family secrets and dangerous safe places. Um, was there a time in your own life that sparked this idea that you were able to go back to, or was it just Courtney's brain being in overload?
Usually my brain's in overload, but one of the things was when we moved from New Jersey to Florida, we didn't know anybody, and
Mhm.
my son was 18 months at the time. So finding a babysitter was like nerve-wracking for me because I couldn't go off of, friends'
Yeah.
recommendations because so you're using care.com and you're doing the background check and all that other stuff, but still there was a lot of times and him being young enough too that he can't express to me
Yes.
if there's a problem. So yeah, I kind of always just had that nervousness until I finally met, someone that I was very comfortable with. But I think it was, it's just the mom brain and you're out to dinner and you're trying to have a nice time. And then you're like, well, what if they kidnap him? What
Yeah.
if they did it? Like, what if this happens?
Yes, I understand. Now, you rewrote the manuscript significantly before submission.
Yeah.
What was the boldest changes made?
The whole Evelyn and Rose story completely.
Do
Um,
tell.
So yeah, the story I had written while I was submitting for an agent. I submitted one and then I figured the only way to keep your sanity when you're getting all those rejections is
Yes.
just to keep writing. And so when I got my agent, I was like so excited. I'm like, oh, here you go. I wrote another one, like trying to be like the eager puppy that I am.
Uh-huh.
And she, as I kind of sat on it a little bit, I went, you know what, like that, well, it's kind of it's very predictable. It's not that exciting. It's
Yeah.
not, and so I kind of said to her, we had first gone around with the aunt, and my agent and editor are UK based. So my agent was going to UK places, and they were, it takes place in Palm Beach. So I don't know if it resonates that well with them.
Yeah.
So they kind of had a pass the first time around. So I said, you know what, let's not submit the tutor. I'm gonna write something else called The Hostess, and I'll submit that to you. And she comes back to me. I'm waiting for her to get me notes on The Hostess. And she goes, well, so I was talking to a bunch of editors and they really like the idea of the tutor. And I was like, oh, like I don't like that story. And
Uh-huh.
she's like, I understand, but they like the idea of it. So she was like, let me take a look at it, see what I can do. Because she used to be an editor for, a significant amount of years as well.
Mhm.
And she comes back to me and she did a really good job, but it was like kind of putting lipstick on a pig. Like there was
Yeah.
just nothing to do there. But again, if this was what the editors were looking for, we wanted to stick with that. And I think it was a combination of like, when you need to study for a test, you study for a test. But if the teacher tells you that your answers are going to be on the board for everybody to see, suddenly
Yes.
you're like, okay, I got to make this work. And so every time I read it and I was like, this is predictable. How can I turn it on its head? And then we go, okay, this is leading here, but how do I turn it on its head? And then I
Yeah.
just kind of kept doing that. And then I worked really fast on it because again, I didn't want the editors to go, okay, well, we filled our quota for this and now we're
Hmm.
moving on to
Hmm.
something else. So it was kind of like the high stakes pressure. And yeah, just it worked out that way for me. Turns out I worked well under pressure.
Nice. I love it. The dynamics of their relationship. I'm so glad that you reworked it and it
Thank you.
is the way that it is. Now, what's a line of dialogue that came to you fully formed and stuck through the editing process?
Hmm. I so there's one scene where I talk about how Grant is introducing Rose to Evelyn for the first time, and he steps aside, and it's like a rising curtain. Like
Yes.
I had liked that idea a lot, so that was something that I wanted to have in there.
Yeah, I love that. And it also was almost a breadcrumb into the family dynamics as well. That of course
Mhm.
it would be like a curtain rising. Why wouldn't it be? She's meeting Evelyn.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Which character surprised you the most while writing?
Evelyn.
Yeah,
Yeah, once you finish, it's most people say that she's their favorite character because yeah, she's
yeah,
don't want to give too much away, but
yeah.
she slays.
She does. Is there any real life person that is similar in nature
No,
to Evelyn?
no. I kind of compared her to like Allison Janney in Palm Royale.
Yes,
Like I
yes.
feel like if I was gonna have this turn into anything, like she would just kill it as
She will
Evelyn.
kill it. Yes, I love that. What do you think makes domestic thrillers scarier than big action-based ones?
Because it can happen to anyone, like it's if you're a spy going out, dealing with the Russian KGB, yes, of course things are going
Yeah.
to happen. But like when you just think you have the greatest life ever, and then it just takes one little thing to just blow your entire world up,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
tough.
And it's scary, just like you're saying, because the analogy that you used earlier about being at dinner and having that babysitter there and having all these thoughts running through your mind. Now, to an average person, maybe their mind wouldn't grow as far, but as a thriller writer, like you have already played all of this out in
Yeah,
your head.
exactly.
How do you decide how much of the character's backstory to reveal versus leave as mystery?
So, I mean, part of my process is I'm a big outliner, so I do the whole story. And then I try to write as much of the backstory as I can once I know the story, like what would motivate these characters to act a certain way and do a certain way. And then, it's always there, but I kind of, it's as I'm writing the story. I mean, I kind of let the characters tell me how much do
Mhm.
they want to reveal and kind of go from there. Yeah.
Where's the craziest place that one of your characters has spoken to you or revealed something to you?
Mm, I'm trying to think. I don't know. There's a scene where like I'm sorry, Isabel is meeting Rose and James on the beach. And it's that like how simple, like this looked like such a coincidence that she just happened to be walking by and seeing him ride a wave and compliment him. And then Rose comes up and goes, "Why is this girl in her mid-20s talking to my 14-year-old?" And then
Yeah.
her going, "Oh, hi, I just started out this school and oh, my son's there too. Yeah, I just transferred from this school in New York." It's like, "Oh, that's where we just came from. That's amazing. Yeah, just getting settled here. Listen, if you guys need tutoring of any sort." And she's like, "Yes, we do." Like, and you're like, "Oh, this is great." And then it wasn't, it seems like it just happened out of nowhere, but it was pretty calculated.
Yeah, excellent. Um, if you could rewrite the ending of any famous thriller, which one would you redo?
Hmm. I don't know. I'm a big fan of a lot of these writers. That's why I read what they do. But I'll tell you that, before I became a particular fan of anyone, when I just kind of really went into deciding I liked mysteries, and one of the reasons that drove me was like, no matter how bad the book was, I was going to read that whole thing
Yeah.
because I needed to know if I was right.
Yes.
And what's good too is that like a lot of times like their ending blew me away so much that I was like, oh, I get it. And then like I wind up loving that book. And there are other times where I've gone like, oh, I could have written this. And if
Yeah.
I did, I would have had this person do this and this and this and this. I couldn't remember offhand
Yeah.
who it was that I read because I likely didn't read them again.
Okay, the
But
same.
yeah.
I love that. Now, earlier before we came on air, we were talking about your journey to being published and how you got a 3 for 1, which totally had me standing up in my chair cheering for you. I know
Thank
that you have 2 other books that are scheduled to come out. We have The Hostess, which is due to come out in paperback in the US in April. And then we have The Aunt that is fast on its heels in June. Before coming into the traditional space, you had a story that you self-published. Tell
you.
us a little about 30 Days to 30.
Sure. So yeah, 30 Days to 30, it was a romantic comedy that I wrote about this girl who, thinks that by 30 she's got to have her life together, and so far she does. She works at this great law firm and she's got a beautiful fiance and they have a beautiful apartment in the city. And then a month before her birthday, she gets fired from her job, comes home early, finds her fiance cheating on her, and he was the one that owned the apartment, so she's forced to move home a month before her birthday. So she's in her mind hit complete rock bottom. And while she's kind of getting settled back into her room, she comes across this list she made of from high school of 30 things to do by the time you're 30. And while there were some big ticket items on there, it was a lot of just like have the nerve to sing karaoke and learn how to cook and learn how to do yoga. And so one of her old best friends convinces her that she should focus the next 30 days on this list and help get her life back together. And you start to realize that it's not always about the goals and the accomplishments. It's about the journey and what you
Yeah.
learn about yourself along the way. And so I wrote that and submitted it to a couple agents. This was the time where Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey were big.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I had one agent that was nice enough to get back to me and say, like, this is really good. Unfortunately, the market's, kind of coming away from this stuff, but you should really self-publish it. And I didn't have the confidence in myself to do that at the time. So I kind of held off. And then, I fast forward a couple years later, I'm about to turn 30, and my husband's like, so, your 30 list was to always, publish a book. Like, you should just do this. And so I, taught myself everything, and it was helpful to understand all the hard work that goes into it. It's not just
Yes.
writing a book and submitting it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're working on formatting, designing, you're marketing it, you're trying to run promotions and advertisements, and but it was good. I published it a month before my 30th, and then I did a blog of my own 30 things to accomplish before my 30th birthday to kind of run alongside it. And it wound up actually, doing really well. And then after that, I was like, oh, that's great. But, I kind of, it was so much work that, I really in the future would like to have a agent
Yeah.
and publisher. And I had kind of held off at that time because my husband and I were talking about having kids. And because I knew how much work it was going to be, I was like, I don't want to try to do that while I have,
Yeah.
a newborn and so on. So I waited until my second son, my youngest, started school and to get back into it. And yes, so now I have an agent and a publisher, and I'm working as hard, if not harder.
Yes.
So, it was a good thing. At least I knew that ahead of time, thankfully. So I am able to dedicate my time to doing that while my kids are at school.
Yeah. And it also helps when you do get the agent and a publisher. And even though there's a little bit of time in there, they do see that and they see if you are able to carry your name into
Yeah,
the
it's just as
spaces that you
important.
did. Oh, wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. And kudos to your husband for pushing you outside your comfort zone. Looking back at the process of publishing for yourself and now as being a traditionally published author, do you give yourself grace and mad kudos for the work that you did?
Yes. And it is thankfully to the support of my husband. I mean, like I said, right now, he switched off with me at the hospital because our son possibly broke his ankle.
Yeah.
And so he went to sit in the waiting room so I could come here and do this interview. And it seems like everything's fine. I don't think it's broken. We'll find out soon.
Yes. Oh, well, we will definitely be sending some happy thoughts to him. Where are the listeners able to engage with you and to connect with you?
So I'm big in on Instagram for the most part. That's probably my strongest one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would I would say that one.
Okay. Now, we have come to the part of our show that I call Last Call, and it's simply some engaging questions designed to end us in a big boop boop. So the first one is this or that. Which this or that accidentally text your boss a love note meant for your partner, or text your partner a grocery list meant for your boss. Oh, that's an easy one.
Yeah, I'd go with the other one. I do have a really funny story about that first one though.
Okay.
So I worked at Nickelodeon when I was younger, and it was my first, I just gotten in char I just gotten promoted, and I was working in a space where I was handling all the digital media products. So this was right when like Hulu and Amazon and Netflix and everybody started branching off. And so I was doing my own conference call for the first time, and I'm calling Paramount in California, and I totally screwed up the conference number, and I give that to them, and I'm waiting, and I remember it was Valentine's Day, so February 14th. We're waiting for them to dial in. Somebody checks their email and goes, "Oh, they're having a hard time." So I went, "Oh, sorry, I missed this one," and I sent it to them. They call me. This is the first time I'm speaking with Paramount. They're cracking up. They're like, "Did you do this on purpose?" I was like, "Do what?" They're like, "Wait, you don't know the number you sent us?" I go, "No." They go, "We're gonna hang up right now. Call that number you gave us and then call us back." So I'm in a room with people from New York too.
Yes.
I hang up, dial the number. It's a sex hotline. So that was fun. Got off on the right foot there. I mean, it actually turned out to be on the right foot because they thought it was funny. And yeah, we've always had a good rapport since then. But yeah, so I did that.
I love that. Fill in the blank. The weirdest rabbit hole you've gone down on the internet was researching blank, and you still can't explain it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a form of how to kill someone, but I have a my one friend's an ER nurse, and so and she also, so I kind of go to her with a lot of questions with like,
Yeah.
could I kill someone this way? Could I kill someone that way? Um and then she goes into the psychology stuff. So yeah, I mean, I've gone pretty deep on just in general, like how far you can manipulate and things like that.
I
I don't know
love
if there was a particular
it.
one.
Okay. True or false? You can tell everything about a person by how they load the dishwasher. Oh, I'm going to say true.
Mm, yeah, I would say that too. But then all dishwashers are loaded like are different. So like it's weird. Like I'll go to like my mother-in-law's house and theirs is different than mine. And then I'm like, wait, I don't know which should go where. Like there's a lot of pressure there. You're right.
Yes, there is. Okay, this or that. Would you rather have a GPS that only speaks in riddles, or a tutor who only communicates through interpretive dance?
I think the interpretive dance would be way more fun.
I think it would as well. And our last one, fill in the blank. If your most awkward life moments had a theme song, what would it be?
Hmm. My most
Other than giving out the sex number.
I was gonna say, I was trying to think of something like freaking sexy back or something
Bring it
based on that
sexy back.
one.
Well, thank you so much, Courtney. This was a
Of
lot of
course.
fun.
Yes, it was so great chatting with you.
You as well.
And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee, or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.